Good evening and welcome to the Sleeping Zoo. Facts to fall asleep to. Lay back and relax as you fall asleep to the most fascinating facts about big cats and pack hunters. The Bengal tiger Panthera, tigris, is not merely the largest and most charismatic of the cat species, but an unparalleled evolutionary success story. A creature perfectly sculpted by millions of years of selective pressure to dominate the diverse and challenging ecosystems of the Indian subcontinent. This magnificent predator, whose stripes are as unique as a human fingerprint, has long reigned as the undisputed apex carnivore, a potent blend of raw power and specialized stealth. To begin our detailed examination of this endangered icon, we must first appreciate the extraordinary biological architecture that makes it such an efficient hunter, delving into the intricacies of its physiology. The Bengal tiger's physique is a testament to its primary hunting strategy, the short-range, explosive ambush. Unlike the cheetah, built for speed, or the jaguar, built for crushing power, the tiger is a balance of muscular density and silent efficiency. Its musculature is deeply packed, particularly across the shoulders and hindquarters, providing the necessary torque for pouncing on large prey and for dragging carcasses that often outweigh the tiger itself. For context, a fully grown male can weigh up to 220 kilograms and possess the strength to haul a fully grown water buffalo over short distances. The sheer scale of this muscle mass contributes to its impressive ability to leap and accelerate from a standstill. The coat, arguably the tiger's most famous physiological feature, is a masterwork of camouflage. The pattern of vertical black stripes against an orange to tawny background is not designed to blend into green foliage, but rather to disrupt the tiger's outline against the broken shadows and dappled light of the forest floor, particularly in the tall, dry grasses that dominate much of its habitat. Crucially, the stripes are not just fur-deep. The pigmentation pattern extends to the skin, meaning that even if shaved, the tiger would retain its distinctive markings. This camouflage is highly effective because most ungulate prey species are dichromats, meaning their vision is less acute than human vision, and they struggle to distinguish orange and red from green and brown, making the tiger's disruptive patterning a highly effective cloak of invisibility in its natural environment. Supporting this physical power is a suite of specialized sensory organs and dental structures. The tiger possesses highly acute night vision, a necessity for an animal that does most of its hunting in the crepuscular hours of dawn and dusk, or completely in darkness. This is achieved through the tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer behind the retina that acts like a biological mirror, reflecting incoming light back through the retina, effectively doubling the light absorption capacity. This is what causes the characteristic eye shine observed in big cats at night. The sense of hearing is also exceptional, with large mobile ear pinnae that can pivot independently to pinpoint the exact location of rustling prey or a distant warning call. While its sense of smell is less dominant than in canids, it remains vital for territorial marking and tracking. The tiger's dentition is specialized for tearing flesh and crushing bone, reflecting its hypercarnivorous diet. It possesses a dental formula designed for killing and consuming large prey. The 4 long recurved canine teeth are formidable, often measuring up to 10 centimeters in length. These are used to pierce the cervical vertebrae or to sever the trachea and major blood vessels in the neck of its prey, leading to rapid expiration. Behind the canines are the highly developed specialized premolars and molars, known as carnassial teeth, which act like powerful sharp shears to slice through tough muscle, tendon, and sinew, allowing the tiger to efficiently process meat and bone into manageable pieces for swallowing. This physiological perfection of sight, strength, and specialized weaponry is what allows the Bengal tiger to sustain the rigorous, solitary behavior that defines its life as a stealth hunter. The behavior of the Bengal tiger is a masterpiece of stealth and patience, anchored by its strict, solitary nature and relentless territoriality. Unlike lions, tigers live, hunt, and raise their young alone. This solitary existence is not necessarily preferred, but is an adaptation to its forested ambush environment, where large prey is scattered and requires a single stealthy hunter rather than a cooperative team. A tiger's life revolves around defending and patrolling its home range. The size of this territory varies dramatically depending on the density of prey. In prime conservation areas with abundant prey, a male tiger may require a territory of 20 to 60 square kilometers, while in depleted habitats, a range may need to be twice as large to sustain him. The tiger employs a sophisticated system of scent marking and vocal communication to define the boundaries of its domain. Scraping, where the tiger rakes the ground with its hind paws, and spraying, where it directs a mixture of urine and anal gland secretions onto trees and bushes, serve as olfactory signposts. These scent marks contain complex chemical messages, conveying the individual's identity, reproductive status, and the timing of its passage, communicating a detailed unseen map of the forest to rivals and potential mates. The most iconic vocalization is the roar. The tiger's roar, which can travel for up to 3 kilometers, is used primarily as a long-distance statement of territorial ownership and is a direct warning to encroaching rivals. The unique low-frequency structure of the roar means it travels effectively through dense forest environments. Beyond the roar, tigers utilize a surprisingly diverse vocabulary, including chuffing, a soft, breathy sound used as a friendly greeting between a mother and her cubs, or between a pair during courtship, and growls, moans, and hisses used in close-range confrontations. The hunting strategy is the core behavioral sequence. It is based almost entirely on stalk and ambush. The hunt is a careful, measured process that can be broken down into the distinct stages: detection, stalking, ambush, takedown, and kill. Let's go through them in turn. Detection, using sight and sound to locate prey, often spending hours watching a grazing herd. Stalking, the tiger moves low to the ground, utilizing every piece of cover to close the distance. This stage demands immense patience, with the tiger sometimes belly crawling for hundreds of meters. Ambush, launching a rapid explosive charge over a short distance, usually less than 20 meters. Takedown, using its massive forelimbs and razor-sharp claws to pull the prey off balance. Kill, delivering the fatal bite, typically to the throat to cause asphyxiation, or to the back of the neck to sever the spinal cord, depending on the size of the prey. This high-risk, high-reward strategy is energetically demanding. Due to the difficulty of approaching prey, the hunting success rate of a tiger is relatively low, estimated at only about 5% to 10% of attempts. This low success rate underscores the tiger's need for vast, resource-rich territories. Reproductive behavior is similarly solitary. Following a brief courtship, the male and female may associate for a few days of mating, after which the male departs, leaving the female to raise the young alone. The gestation lasts approximately 104 days, resulting in a litter of 2 to 4 cubs. The mother raises her cubs in secluded, well-hidden dens, moving them frequently to avoid drawing the attention of predators and male tigers, who pose a significant threat of infanticide to remove competition and bring the female back into estrus. The cubs remain dependent on the mother, learning every aspect of survival for approximately 2 to 3 years before they finally disperse to find their own territories. This long period of maternal care, coupled with the low success rate of their solitary hunt, demands that the tiger's habitat provide continuous, unfragmented security and a reliable, diverse prey base. The habitat of the Bengal tiger is remarkably varied, demonstrating a high degree of adaptability. Yet, it is always characterized by the presence of dense cover and water. Historically, the tiger's range spanned virtually the entire Indian subcontinent, from the Himalayas to the tip of Kerala, but today its distribution is fragmented into isolated pockets across India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh. The tiger is a habitat generalist, but a cover specialist. It can be found in a dramatic spectrum of environments, each posing unique challenges. Moist deciduous and tropical evergreen forests are the classic dense jungle environments, characterized by high rainfall and a layered canopy, offering the ultimate in camouflage and a stable prey base of various deer species. Dry deciduous forests and scrublands, found in central and western India, feature lower rainfall, sparser vegetation, and extreme seasonal temperature fluctuations. Here, tigers often rely on water bodies that persist through the dry season and face competition from leopards. Subtropical and temperate grasslands, particularly the tall grasses of the Terai-Dua region of Nepal and northern India, are dense, high grasses, often exceeding the height of a tiger, and provide perfect cover for stalking and ambushing prey like the swamp deer and rhinoceros. The Sundarbans mangrove forests are a unique habitat, shared by India and Bangladesh, and is the only place in the world where tigers are found in a tidal mangrove environment. These tigers are adapted to swimming across broad tidal channels, living on islands, and preying on species like the spotted deer and wild boar, surviving on high salt intake and enduring constantly changing water levels. Despite this versatility, the single most critical factor in any tiger habitat is riparian integrity, meaning the presence of clean, permanent water sources. Tigers are proficient swimmers and require water not only for drinking, but also for cooling down in the extreme heat of the South Asian summer, often spending the hottest hours submerged in waterholes. The availability of water is inextricably linked to the availability of prey, as herbivores concentrate near permanent sources, making water bodies the strategic center of any tiger's territory. The constant loss of forest cover due to logging and encroachment, coupled with the seasonal variations in monsoon rainfall, means that the security and resource richness of these critical habitat patches are constantly under threat, directly impacting the entire ecology of the predator-prey system. The ecology of the Bengal tiger defines it as the keystone species of its forest and grassland environments. A keystone species is one whose removal has a disproportionately large effect on its ecosystem, and the tiger's predatory role is crucial for maintaining the ecological balance and health of the entire food web beneath it. The tiger occupies the highest trophic level, regulating the populations of large herbivores, known as its prey base. The primary prey species include sambar deer, spotted deer, wild boar, and nilgai, as well as sometimes tackling formidable animals like water buffalo and gaur. A healthy adult tiger requires an average of 50 to 60 large ungulates per year to sustain its metabolic needs. This high demand means that the tiger constantly exerts a powerful selective pressure on its prey populations. By selectively removing the weak, old, or sick individuals, the tiger helps to maintain the genetic fitness and overall health of the herbivore populations. More profoundly, the presence of the tiger creates a phenomenon known as the landscape of fear. The mere presence of the apex predator dictates the movement, distribution, and foraging patterns of its prey. Large mammals cannot graze freely. They must move cautiously, avoiding dense cover and areas where the tiger is known to patrol. This avoidance behavior indirectly benefits the vegetation, as it prevents overgrazing in sensitive areas, allowing plants, saplings, and sensitive undergrowth to thrive. Thus, the tiger's survival ensures the biological diversity of the entire forest structure. When tigers are absent, herbivore populations can explode, leading to overgrazing, habitat degradation, and a catastrophic loss of plant diversity, demonstrating that the tiger is essential for the structure of the habitat itself. However, the tiger also faces intense interspecific competition from other carnivores that share its territory, primarily the leopard and the Indian wild dog. Leopards, though smaller, are highly adaptable and often coexist by specializing in smaller prey and using different hunting times, often staying closer to human settlements. Does, or wild dogs, are social hunters and can take down prey almost as large as the tigers, often competing for the same deer species. The tiger usually maintains dominance over these competitors, frequently engaging in stealing kills known as kleptoparasitism, and occasionally killing competitors to reduce predation pressure on its own food supply. The dhole in particular poses a threat to tiger cubs and subadults, sometimes harassing adult tigers away from their kills, highlighting the complex dynamics of the forest hierarchy. This intricate web of life, where the tiger is both king and competitor, is increasingly frayed by human encroachment, placing its conservation status in a continuous state of emergency. The conservation status of the Bengal tiger is critically endangered, despite intensive protection efforts spanning decades. The species is listed as endangered globally, and the remaining wild population is estimated to be below 4,000 individuals, confined to highly fragmented protected areas that often resemble small, isolated islands of forest. The population crash of the 20th century, driven by habitat loss and rampant hunting, was dramatic, and while the decline has largely been halted in core areas, the long-term survival of the species remains acutely challenging due to three primary, interlocking threats. The foremost immediate threat is poaching driven by the illegal wildlife trade. Tiger parts, such as bones, skins, whiskers, and organs, are highly valued in certain traditional Asian medicine markets, driven by the erroneous belief in their medicinal or talismanic properties. This demand fuels an international organized criminal network that targets tigers across their range. Despite robust anti-poaching measures, including armed patrols and surveillance technology, the financial incentive for poachers remains high, leading to continuous losses of breeding adults. The protection of the tiger has thus become a paramilitary exercise, requiring constant vigilance and advanced monitoring techniques to safeguard the remaining animals. The second major threat is habitat fragmentation and loss. Even within protected tiger reserves, the surrounding areas are rapidly being converted for agriculture, infrastructure, and human settlement. The remaining forest patches are too small and too isolated to support genetically viable populations over the long term. This isolation leads to genetic bottlenecks, reducing the diversity within the population and making the tigers more susceptible to diseases and inbreeding depression. The key to long-term conservation is securing and restoring strips of protected habitat known as wildlife corridors that allow tigers to move safely between otherwise isolated protected areas, enabling genetic exchange and allowing young tigers to disperse and establish new territories. The third, and increasingly difficult, threat is human-wildlife conflict. As tiger populations stabilize or increase in core reserves, and their prey base is pushed to the boundaries of the forest, tigers are inevitably pushed out into human-dominated landscapes in search of food or to establish new ranges. This leads to livestock depredation and, tragically, occasional attacks on people. These conflicts often result in the retaliatory killing of the tiger by local villagers, undermining conservation gains. Conservation strategies must now integrate community-based approaches, offering compensation for livestock loss, relocating villages away from critical core areas, and educating communities on safe living practices near tiger reserves. The success of large-scale initiatives, most famously Project Tiger in India, which established a network of specialized reserves, has demonstrated that protection works. But the survival of the Bengal tiger now depends less on protection within reserves and more on the tolerance and connectivity outside them. Given its raw power, striking appearance, and elusive nature, the Bengal tiger has long occupied a sacred, powerful, and often fearsome space in popular culture, folklore, and legend across its native range and throughout the colonial world. In Indian mythology and folklore, the tiger is often revered as a symbol of immense power, courage, and divine ferocity, representing a complex duality of protection and destruction. The tiger is inextricably linked to the powerful Hindu goddess Durga, the warrior goddess who battles evil. She is famously depicted riding a tiger or a lion, symbolizing her mastery over primal energy and her boundless power. This association grants the tiger a near-sacred status, offering it a degree of protection, as harming a tiger could be seen as incurring the wrath of the deity. Furthermore, in many tribal traditions across India and Nepal, the tiger is a central totem animal, believed to be a powerful ancestor or spirit that protects the forest, reinforcing the ecological reverence for the animal. Stories of humans who can transform into tigers are common in the folklore of regions like the Sundarbans, reflecting a deep-seated respect and fear of the animal's proximity and power. During the British colonial era, the tiger's image underwent a dramatic transformation in Western culture. It became the ultimate object of the big game hunter, transitioning from a mythological deity to a symbol of the wild that needed to be conquered. The tiger hunt became an elaborate, expensive social ritual, often conducted from the backs of elephants. All at once, the tiger earned a fearful reputation as a man-eater. While most tigers avoid humans, certain injured, old, or habituated individuals would switch to human prey when they could no longer hunt fleet-footed ungulates. Famous accounts by writers like Jim Corbett immortalized the terror and tracking skill associated with these man-eaters, cementing a Western perception of the tiger as a fearsome, savage adversary, a creature to be respected, yes, but ultimately to be subdued. In modern popular culture, the tiger's image is overwhelmingly one of majesty and conservation necessity. It is a favored mascot and emblem globally, representing power, speed, and confidence in sports and corporate branding. In literature and film, the tiger often symbolizes the wild spirit or a source of deep wisdom. The character Shere Khan from Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book is a famous example, embodying a malevolent, aristocratic terror of the forest. More recently, the magnificent tiger Richard Parker from Jan Martel's Life of Pi captures the dual nature of the tiger's awesome beauty and its brutal, uncompromising reality, challenging the reader to reconcile the romantic symbol with the biological necessity of the killer. The tiger's presence in media, whether as a fearsome colonial foe or a powerful symbol of endangered nature, has kept it at the forefront of the global imagination, ensuring that the necessary public support for its conservation remains strong. In summary, the Bengal tiger is an evolutionary marvel, a perfect killing machine whose dense musculature, cryptic physiology, and specialized senses allow it to function as a solitary, effective ambush predator. This capacity dictates a behavior rooted in relentless, silent territoriality and a mastery of the stalk and ambush sequence, supported by sophisticated scent and vocal communication. Its presence across dramatically diverse habitats, from high-altitude forests to tidal mangroves, demonstrates its resilience, yet it relies absolutely on permanent water and dense cover. As the keystone species of its environment, its predatory role is essential for maintaining the health and diversity of the entire ecosystem. However, this magnificent animal faces overwhelming threats from poaching, habitat fragmentation, and human-wildlife conflict, pressures that demand immense resources and international cooperation to manage. From its sacred role as the Vahana of the goddess Durga to its modern status as the global symbol of endangered wilderness, the Bengal tiger's survival is both a biological imperative and a cultural legacy that humanity cannot afford to lose. To understand the creature that modern science calls the spotted hyena, one must first dismantle the visual intuition that suggests they are simply a primitive or specialized form of wild dog. The silhouette of the hyena, with its sloping back, powerful forequarters, and long canine-like snout, is one of nature's most successful examples of convergent evolution, where unrelated species develop similar traits to solve identical environmental challenges. However, the genetic truth tells a story that is far more feline than canine. The hyena belongs to the suborder Feliformia, placing it on the same broad branch of the evolutionary tree as cats, mongooses, and civets. Their ancestors diverged from the cat-like lineage roughly 30 million years ago, carving out a unique niche that eventually saw them abandon the arboreal or stalking lifestyles of their cousins to become the dominant cursors or running hunters of the open plains. The evolutionary paradox of the hyena is rooted in the Miocene epoch, a time when the world was shifting from dense forests to expansive grasslands. During this period, the Hyenidae family split into two distinct functional groups. One branch, often referred to as the dog-like hyenas, mirrored the physical build and hunting style of modern wolves and foxes. They were lithe, agile, and built for the long-distance pursuit of small to medium-sized prey. However, as climate shifts favored larger, more robust herbivores, a second branch emerged characterized by a radically different cranial architecture. These were the bone-cracking hyenas. While the dog-like hyenas eventually succumbed to competition from the rising family of true canines, the bone crackers thrived by developing a physical toolkit that no other predator could match. They became the ultimate recyclers of the prehistoric world, capable of extracting nutrients from the skeletal remains that every other carnivore left behind. Within the four surviving species of the Hyenidae family, we see the remnants of this diverse history. The aardwolf stands as a living relic of the earlier, insectivorous ancestors, having traded the bone-cracking jaws of its cousins for a specialized tongue and a diet consisting almost exclusively of harvester termites. It is a peaceful outlier in a family otherwise defined by predatory power. The striped hyena and the brown hyena represent a middle ground, primarily scavengers that retain the massive skull and teeth of the bone-cracking lineage, but lack the social complexity and aggressive hunting drive of their more famous relative. It is the spotted hyena, Crocuta crocuta, that serves as the pinnacle of this evolutionary journey. It is the largest, most social, and most physically formidable of the group, possessing a physiology that is as much a feat of engineering as it is a product of biology. To look closely at the skull of a spotted hyena is to witness a masterpiece of structural physics designed for the application of extreme pressure. The most prominent feature is the sagittal crest, a high ridge of bone running along the top of the skull that serves as the anchor point for the massive temporalis muscles. These muscles are so large that they fill the space behind the eyes, giving the hyena its characteristically broad and powerful head. When these muscles contract, they generate a bite force that has been measured at over 1,100 pounds per square inch. This is not merely for killing prey, but for the systematic deconstruction of a carcass. Where a lion or a leopard might strip the meat and leave the skeleton, the spotted hyena consumes the entirety of the animal. Their premolars are specifically shaped like cones to distribute the stress of crushing hard objects, allowing them to shatter the femur of a giraffe or the thick hide of a buffalo with unsettling ease. This ability to process bone is not limited to the jaws. It extends into a highly specialized digestive system. The stomach of a spotted hyena is a chemical furnace, producing gastric juices with an acidity so high that it can dissolve mineralized bone, horns, and even inorganic matter. This allows the hyena to access the calorie-rich marrow and calcium that other predators simply cannot digest. This efficiency is visible in the wild, in the form of their distinct white droppings, which are composed almost entirely of processed calcium. By consuming the parts of the kill that others discard, the hyena occupies a position in the ecosystem that is both a predator and a janitor, ensuring that the nutrients within a carcass are fully cycled back into the environment. The physical build of the spotted hyena is often described as awkward, but this is a misunderstanding of their specialized locomotion. Their front legs are significantly longer and more robust than their hind legs, creating a sloping posture that is actually an adaptation for long-distance efficiency, rather than short-burst speed. While a cheetah is built for the sprint, the hyena is built for the siege. They can maintain a steady loping pace for miles, gradually wearing down their prey through sheer persistence. Their heart is exceptionally large relative to their body size, providing the cardiovascular endurance needed to outlast animals that are technically faster but lack the hyena's stamina. This heart, combined with a thick neck and heavy shoulders, allows them to drag carcasses weighing hundreds of pounds away from competitors, moving with a strength that belies their size. Beyond the mechanics of the hunt and the feast, the true complexity of the spotted hyena lies in their cognitive and social structures. For decades, they were dismissed as mindless scavengers, but modern field research has revealed that their intelligence and social navigation are on par with, and in some cases exceed, those of many non-human primates. They live in massive social units known as clans, which can number up to 80 or even 100 individuals. These are not loose aggregations, but highly organized societies governed by a strict linear dominance hierarchy. In the world of the spotted hyena, the female is the undisputed ruler. This matriarchy is absolute. The highest-ranking male in a clan is almost always subordinate to the lowest-ranking female. The origin of this female dominance is one of the great fascinations of mammalian biology. It is driven in part by the fact that female spotted hyenas are larger, more aggressive, and more socially cohesive than the males. This dominance is established and reinforced through a complex system of social signaling and inheritance. Unlike most social carnivores, where rank is fought for and won through physical combat, a female spotted hyena's position is largely determined by her birth. A daughter inherits the rank immediately below her mother, a phenomenon known as maternal rank inheritance. This creates stable lineages of power that can persist for generations. From the moment a cub is born into a high-ranking lineage, it is treated with a level of deference and afforded access to resources that a lower-ranking cub will never know. This hierarchy is maintained through a constant stream of social interactions that serve to reinforce the status quo. Higher-ranking females will use their status to control access to kills, ensuring that they and their offspring are the first to feed. This has profound implications for the survival and growth of the cubs. A high-ranking mother can produce milk that is higher in fat and protein because she is better fed, and her presence at the den protects her young from the social bullying of other clan members. The result is a system where success is self-perpetuating. The daughters of high-ranking matriarchs grow faster, survive longer, and enter the breeding population earlier, cementing their family's hold on the clan's leadership. For the males, life is a starkly different experience. Upon reaching sexual maturity, most male spotted hyenas are forced to leave their natal clan and embark on a perilous journey to find a new group. This dispersal is a critical mechanism for preventing inbreeding, but it places the immigrant male at the very bottom of the social ladder in his new home. To be accepted into a new clan, a male must undergo a period of social testing that can last for months. He must be submissive to every female, and even to the juveniles. He must wait at the periphery of kills, often eating only the scraps that remain after the females have finished. His only path to success is through patience and the formation of social bonds, as he slowly works his way up the male hierarchy through the attrition of those above him. It is a life of constant negotiation and deference, a mirror image of the male-dominated structures seen in most other mammalian predators. The interaction between these ranks and the physical environment is mediated by a sophisticated communication network. The famous laugh of the spotted hyena, which sounds so eerily human to our ears, is in fact a highly nuanced signal of social status and frustration. Scientifically known as the giggle, this vocalization is typically produced when a hyena is being harassed or when there is intense competition at a kill. The pitch and frequency of the giggle can convey the age and social standing of the individual, providing others in the dark or in the chaos of a hunt with a clear picture of who is present and what their state of mind is. It is just one part of a vast repertoire of sounds, from the haunting low-frequency whoop that can carry for miles across the savannah to the soft groans used between a mother and her cubs. Each sound is a thread in the social fabric that keeps the clan together. The biological reality of the female spotted hyena is perhaps the most radical departure from mammalian norms in the entire natural world. To the casual observer, distinguishing between a male and a female in the field is nearly impossible because the female possesses a highly modified clitoris that is indistinguishable in outward appearance from the male's penis. This structure, often referred to as a pseudopenis or peniform clitoris, is capable of erection and is the conduit through which the female urinates, mates, and gives birth. Internally, the female lacks a dynamic vaginal opening. Instead, the birth canal is fused, and the urogenital tract passes through this elongated, narrow organ. This anatomy is not merely a cosmetic oddity, but a central pillar of the species' social and hormonal evolution. Tied directly to the high levels of androgens, specifically testosterone and androstenedione, that circulate in the female system during pregnancy. This hormonal environment begins to shape the cubs long before they are born. During gestation, the placenta allows high concentrations of maternal androgens to reach the developing fetuses. This prenatal androgenization serves a vital purpose. It prepares the cubs for a life governed by extreme competition and aggression. In a clan where your position at a kill determines your survival, being born ready to fight is a distinct evolutionary advantage. However, this advantage comes at a staggering physical cost to the mother. The birth process for a spotted hyena is among the most perilous in the animal kingdom. The first time, mother must force a 2-pound cub through a narrow, inelastic birth canal that makes a sharp turn around the pelvic bone before exiting through the tip of the pseudopenis. The internal tissues of the organ frequently tear during this process, And for many young females, the first birth is fatal. Even if the mother survives, the risk of the cub suffocating within the long birth canal is high, leading to a significant rate of stillbirth among primiparous females. For those cubs that do survive the trauma of birth, the struggle for dominance begins almost immediately. Spotted hyenas are born with their eyes open, their teeth fully erupted, and a level of motor coordination that is unheard of in other carnivores. Within minutes of emerging, same-sex littermates may begin a brutal struggle for dominance known as neonatal siblicide. In the dark confines of the natal den where the mother is too large to intervene, the cubs will use their sharpened scissors and canines to attack one another. They aim for the neck and shoulders, shaking their sibling with a ferocity that belies their tiny size. In cases of intense competition, particularly when food resources are scarce, this aggression results in the death of one sibling. This is not mindless cruelty, but a calculated biological gamble. By eliminating a competitor, the surviving cub ensures it has exclusive access to its mother's highly nutritious milk, doubling its growth rate and vastly increasing its chances of surviving to adulthood. This milk is the cornerstone of the hyena's early development. Spotted hyena milk has the highest protein content of any terrestrial carnivore, and a fat content second only to that of some marine mammals. Because a mother may need to travel long distances to hunt or scavenge, she may be away from the den for several days. This exceptionally rich milk allows the cubs to go for long periods without feeding, providing them with the sustained energy needed to maintain their rapid growth. The nursing period for a spotted hyena is also unusually long, often lasting up to 18 months. During this time, the cubs are slowly introduced to the social life of the clan, learning the complex who's who of the hierarchy through observation and participation in the greeting ceremonies that define hyena sociality. The greeting ceremony is a remarkable display of trust and submission that centers on the very anatomy that makes the species so unique. When two clan members meet after a period of separation, they stand head to tail and lift a hind leg, inviting the other to sniff and lick their erect genitals. In the high-stakes world of the clan, where a single bite can be lethal, this position of extreme vulnerability serves as a social glue. It reinforces bonds and signals peaceful intentions. For a subordinate male or a lower-ranking female, the willingness to engage in this greeting is a vital sign of deference to a superior. It is a physical manifestation of the hierarchy, a moment where the biological and the social intersect to maintain the stability of the group. While the visual signals of the greeting ceremony are important, the auditory world of the hyena is where their social complexity truly shines. The vocal repertoire of the spotted hyena is one of the most sophisticated among non-primate mammals, consisting of over a dozen distinct sounds that serve different communicative functions. The most iconic of these is the whoop. This long-distance call begins as a low-pitched groan and rises into a high-pitched haunting wail that can be heard up to 3 miles away. Each whoop is individualistically distinct. A hyena can recognize the specific voice of every other member of its clan. Whoops are used to rally the group for a hunt, to defend territory against rival clans, or by a mother searching for her cubs. When a clan gathers and whoops in unison, the sound is a powerful display of collective strength that can intimidate even a pride of lions. Contrasting with the powerful whoop is the infamous giggle, a sound that has led to centuries of human misunderstanding. To our ears, it sounds like hysterical human laughter, but to a hyena, it is a signal of high arousal, frustration, or social uncertainty. It is most frequently heard during a kill when multiple hyenas are competing for access to the carcass. A subordinate individual who is being pushed away from the meat by a higher-ranking female will giggle to signal its state of mind. Researchers have found that the acoustic features of the giggle, such as its pitch and the regularity of the notes, encode information about the age and status of the caller. This allows other hyenas in the vicinity to assess the social dynamics of the scene without having to look directly at the participants, a crucial advantage in the dark or in the middle of a chaotic feeding frenzy. The vocal landscape also includes the fast groan, a sound used during the greeting ceremony, and the soft squeak or whine used by cubs to solicit milk or attention from their mothers. There is also the alarm growl, a deep, vibrating sound that warns the clan of approaching danger, such as a lion or a human. Each of these sounds is part of a continuous stream of information that flows through the clan, allowing for a level of coordination that is essential for a species that must often act as a single unit to bring down large prey or defend its kills. This acoustic intelligence is a reflection of the hyena's brain, which features an enlarged frontal cortex. This area of the brain is associated with social cognition and decision-making, and in the spotted hyena, it is proportionally larger than in other carnivores, suggesting that the demands of living in such a complex matriarchal society have driven the evolution of their intelligence. This intelligence is perhaps most visible during a hunt. While the image of the hyena as a mere scavenger persists, studies have shown that in many ecosystems, spotted hyenas kill as much as 95% of the food they eat. They are apex predators that use sophisticated group tactics to bring down animals much larger than themselves, including zebra, wildebeest, and even young elephants. During a hunt, the clan displays a level of cooperation that rivals that of wolves or chimpanzees. They can assess the vulnerability of a herd, pick out a target, and coordinate their movements to cut it off from the group. They do not rely on the silent ambush of the cat. They use their endurance to run their prey into the ground, a strategy that requires constant communication and a shared understanding of the goal. The kill itself is a scene of incredible intensity, as the hyena's specialized anatomy allows it to consume the entire animal in a matter of minutes, leaving nothing but a blood-stained patch of earth behind. While the vocalizations of the spotted hyena dominate the nocturnal airwaves, a silent, chemical dialogue is constantly unfolding beneath the notice of the human nose. This is the world of hyena butter, a thick, pungent secretion produced by the anal glands. Both males and females engage in pasting, a behavior where they straddle a stalk of tall grass and deposit a smear of this yellowish-white paste. To a hyena, a single deposit of butter is a high-density data packet. It reveals the individual's identity, its sex, its reproductive status, and exactly how long ago it passed through the area. This scent, marking, creates a chemical map of the clan's territory, a series of olfactory signposts that warn intruders and reassure allies. The complexity of this butter is a result of a symbiotic relationship with specialized bacteria living within the scent glands, a microbial factory that produces the unique volatile fatty acids that give each hyena its signature scent. This territoriality is not merely a matter of pride. It is a necessity for survival in a landscape where the hyena's greatest rival is always watching. The relationship between the spotted hyena and the African lion is often described as a great war, a perpetual state of interspecific competition that has shaped the evolution of both species. This is not the simple predator-prey dynamic seen elsewhere. It is a battle between two apex titans for the same niche. Lions and hyenas share over 80% of their diet, and they frequently steal kills from one another in a process known as kleptoparasitism. While a single lion can easily overpower a single hyena, the strength of the hyena lies in the power of the clan. A group of 20 hyenas can successfully mob a lioness and force her off a carcass. However, the arrival of a male lion, which is nearly double the size of a female and possessing a mane that protects his throat, can instantly turn the tide. Male lions have been known to track and kill the matriarch of a hyena clan with surgical precision, recognizing that by removing the head of the social serpent, they can destabilize the entire group. This rivalry is etched into the fossil record. During the Pleistocene, the ancestors of the modern spotted hyena, such as the cave hyena, roamed across Europe and Asia. These massive predators, significantly larger than their modern counterparts, were the primary competitors of early humans and Neanderthals for the safety of caves and the abundance of megafauna like woolly mammoths and rhinos. Archaeological sites often reveal a yo-yo effect of occupation. Layers of human artifacts, followed by layers of hyena coprolites and gnawed bones. The cave hyena was a formidable presence that likely influenced the migration patterns and defensive strategies of our ancestors. The extinction of the cave hyena at the end of the last ice age, likely due to climate change and the loss of its prey base, left the spotted hyena of Africa as the last great representative of this bone-crushing lineage. This deep time connection has manifested in human culture as a mixture of terror and awe. In many African cultures, the hyena is a creature of the liminal spaces, such as the boundary between the living and the dead. In the folklore of the Manda people of Mali, the hyena is associated with the first humans and represents the raw, untamed aspects of the psyche. In other regions, tales of were hyenas or Buddha described sorcerers who can shift their shape into that of a hyena at night to feast on the flesh of the living. This association with the macabre is reinforced by the hyena's role as a scavenger that can consume every part of a corpse, including the bones, leaving no trace behind. To the ancient mind, the hyena was a biological eraser, a creature that could remove the physical evidence of death itself. Yet, in certain corners of the world, this ancient enmity has transformed into a surreal form of coexistence. In the walled city of Harar, Ethiopia, a tradition has existed for centuries where hyena men feed the local clans by hand. What began as a way to keep the predators from attacking livestock during times of famine has become a nightly ritual. The hyenas of Harar have learned to recognize the calls of specific men, emerging from the shadows of the city walls to take scraps of meat from a stick held in a human mouth. This is not domestication. These are wild animals that return to the surrounding hills at dawn. It is a fragile peace, a living demonstration that even the most feared predator in the world can find a place within the human landscape if there is mutual respect and a reliable source of food. The spotted hyena is a creature that defies every easy categorization we attempt to impose upon it. It is a matriarch that rules through a combination of hormonal aggression and sophisticated social bonding. It is a predator that is also a highly efficient scavenger, a cleaner of the ecosystem that prevents the spread of disease by consuming carcasses that would otherwise rot. It is a biological marvel with a digestive system that can dissolve bone and an immune system that is virtually impervious to anthrax and rabies. As the sun sets over the savanna, the first whoops begin to echo through the acacia trees. The clan is waking, the cubs are emerging from the safety of the den, and the matriarch is preparing for the night's hunt. We may never fully love the hyena, but we must respect it. It is a mirror of our own social complexities, a species defined by cooperation, intelligence, and a relentless drive to survive in a world that has often tried to write it off as a villain. In the great theater of evolution, the spotted hyena is not a supporting actor. It is a lead performer, a master of the African night that has survived the ages by being smarter, tougher, and more adaptable than anything else on the plains. The laugh of the hyena is not a joke. It is a testament to the enduring power of life in its most radical, bone-crushing, and extraordinary form. We are turning our gaze now to the shadowed, fragmented woodlands and thorny scrublands of 3 continents, to the profound solitude of the perfected killer. The wildcat, Felis sylvestris. This animal is the foundational ancestor of the vast global population of domestic cats, a creature whose evolutionary success is inextricably tied to its stealth, its uncompromising independence, and its profound inherent wildness, a wildness now standing at the precipice of genetic annihilation. The wildcat is not a single monolithic entity, but a constellation of adapted forms, a distributed intelligence across disparate biomes, yet bound by the shared mandate of hyper-carnivorous efficiency. To fully appreciate its biological mandate and its precarious existence, we must begin with a rigorous taxonomic and historical assessment of its lineage, understanding the subtle yet critical differentiations that define the ancestral form against its global domesticated progeny. The species Felis sylvestris is traditionally passed into 3 primary, geographically and morphologically distinct subspecies, each representing a distinct optimization to its local climate and prey base across an immense Eurasian and African range. Residing in the fragmented temperate forests of mainland Europe, from the rugged highlands of Scotland down to the Iberian Peninsula, is the European wildcat, Felis sylvestris sylvestris. This subspecies is further defined by its proportionately shorter, muscular, cylindrical tail that maintains a consistent diameter from base to the blunt, black-tipped end, and the distinct, non-broken, dense banding that marks its pelage, a pattern ensuring its seamless integration into the complex, dappled light of the forest understory, particularly where subpopulations, like the Scottish wildcat, Felis sylvestris grampia, demonstrate localized adaptations for even harsher, wind-swept moorlands, and the Iberian form, Felis sylvestris tartessia, is slightly smaller, adapting to the Mediterranean scrub. The European wildcat strategy is one of relentless caution and sheer muscular power, allowing it to dominate prey larger than itself, a necessary adaptation in its highly competitive environment, where competition with larger mesopredators is fierce. Moving eastward and southward, across the arid landscapes of the Near East and the entirety of the African continent, we encounter the African wildcat, Felis sylvestris libica. This subspecies, significantly lighter and more finely built than its European cousin, possesses a sandier, less dense coat, often displaying a fainter, more spotted pattern, reflecting its profound adaptation to warmer, more open habitats, exhibiting the lean athleticism required for hunting in expansive scrub and desert fringes. It is libica that holds the pivotal position in the history of human-animal interaction, being the singular ancestor from which the entire domestic cat population, Felis catus, was derived, a genetic capture event that began approximately 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, specifically linked to the dawn of settled agriculture and the need to protect burgeoning stores of grain from rodents. This domestication was a process of commensalism, a mutual benefit where the cat policed the grain stores and humans provided an accidental, self-sustaining food source in the form of synanthropic rodents. Archaeological evidence, such as the cat remains, found buried with a human in Cyprus dating back 9,500 years, confirms the antiquity of this unique relationship. Finally, stretching across the steppes, grasslands, and semi-arid regions of Asia, we find the Asiatic steppe wildcat, Felis sylvestris ornata. This is a medium-sized form characterized by a highly visible spotted coat pattern, which provides sophisticated camouflage across the dry, rocky, and sparse vegetation of its vast range, possessing a hunting versatility necessary to exploit the varied rodent, bird, and reptile populations of the arid interior. This demonstrates flexibility across its enormous fragmented distribution, with its broken spotting pattern optimized for environments with high light exposure and scattered cover. These three forms, while genetically linked and sharing the fundamental wildcat template, represent a living study in ecomorphological variation, where each has maximized efficiency for its particular domain. Yet this complexity is now overshadowed by the profound conservation challenge it now faces, the crisis of hybridization, a silent, insidious threat wherein the genetic integrity of the wild species is being diluted and ultimately absorbed by the relentless, ubiquitous overflow of the domestic cat, which acts as a genetically parasitic population. To comprehend the wildcat's operational efficiency, we must dissect the physiological and anatomical analysis. The perfected predator, a blueprint for solitary, nocturnal efficiency honed over millions of years of selective pressure. The wildcat's sensory apparatus is an integrated system designed to function optimally in low light and complex acoustic environments, a clear evolutionary mandate for a crepuscular and nocturnal hunter whose survival relies on detecting the slightest movement of subterranean and surface prey. Its vision is spectacular, centered on massive, vertically elliptical pupils capable of maximum dilation to admit the absolute minimum of available light, maximizing photon capture in near total darkness. The retina is overwhelmingly dominated by rod photoreceptors, the cells responsible for low light sensitivity at a ratio far exceeding that found in diurnal predators. This provides superior motion detection, but at an evolutionary trade-off of reduced color and fine detail perception in bright daylight. Overwhelmingly dominated by rod photoreceptors, the cells responsible for low light sensitivity at a ratio far exceeding that found in diurnal predators. This provides superior motion detection, but at an evolutionary trade-off of reduced color and fine detail perception in bright daylight. The tapetum lucidum, a specialized reflective layer of cells behind the retina composed of crystalline riboflavin, acts as a biological mirror, reflecting photons back through the retinal cells that have not yet absorbed them, effectively doubling the light absorption and visual acuity under conditions of near total darkness, lending the animal its characteristic, unnerving bright eye shine in the dark. This extreme visual acuity is paired with an auditory system of equal finesse. The mobile pinnae, or external ears, are independently controlled by a sophisticated array of up to 30 individual muscles, allowing them to swivel rapidly and precisely through 180 degrees of arc, acting as hyperdirectional sound funnels. This allows for hyper-accurate sound localization, calculating the interaural time difference ETD and the interaural level difference yield of sound waves between the two ears with milliseconds of precision, essential for identifying the exact location of prey rustling deep in leaf litter or moving through subsurface tunnels. This auditory specialization allows the wildcat to detect and pinpoint ultrasonic frequencies emitted by rodent vocalizations and movements, providing a crucial hidden layer of sensory data undetectable to most of its larger competitors. Furthermore, the wildcat's sense of scent and touch, mediated by a highly sophisticated nasal structure, and the exquisitely sensitive vibroside whisker salloid to construct a precise, multi-dimensional map of its immediate surroundings, essential for navigating and executing the final, fatal pounce in pitch darkness. These whiskers are deeply rooted in a specialized follicular sinus complex, rich in Merkel cells, Pacinian corpuscles, and other mechanoreceptors that register the slightest change in air pressure. This ability, known as rheotaxis, allows the wildcat to detect the air displacement caused by moving prey, measure gaps, and judge the precise distance and angle for the killing bite, even when visual cues are completely absent, making the whisker system a non-contact sensor array. The physical structure is one of compact, explosive power, built for unparalleled acceleration and rugged durability rather than sustained endurance. The wildcat possesses a more robust skeleton and dramatically greater muscle mass density compared to a typical domestic cat of similar size, a distinction that is often visible in the proportionately wider cranium and shorter limb bones, resulting in a heavier, more purposeful, and stealthier gait. Its coat, particularly that of the European subspecies, is remarkably dense and features an oily water-repellent layer of guard hairs, providing essential insulation and thermoregulation against the damp cold that permeates its forest habitats. The most distinguishing morphological feature, aside from the general robust build, is the tail, an appendage of critical biomechanical importance. This tail is thick, heavily furred, and muscular, typically maintaining a consistent diameter from base to tip, ensuring it does not taper significantly, and culminates in that definitive, blunt, non-tapered black tip, often displaying 3 to 5 distinct, dark, complete rings along its length. The tail functions as a critical counterbalance and an inertial flywheel during complex movements, controlling the moment of inertia. By adjusting the position of the caudal vertebrae, the tail provides the necessary stability for navigating steep, uneven terrain, traversing rocky outcrops, or making the sudden, high G shifts in trajectory necessary during a pursuit, acting to conserve angular momentum during a sudden, high-speed pivot. This biomechanical control is essential to the cat's acrobatic precision. The specialized foot pads are large, heavily cushioned, and often covered in thick fur between the toes, a silent adaptation that minimizes audible contact with the substrate and provides a superior grip on snow, ice, or loose soil, ensuring its approach is a study in stealth and absolute silence. In comparing this physiological masterpiece to its domesticated descendant, a clear distinction emerges. The pure wildcat typically exhibits a larger cranial capacity relative to its body size, related to its obligate reliance on complex problem-solving and immediate, independent decision-making for hunting and survival, and a genetically ingrained extreme neophobia, or fear response, to human presence that is a non-negotiable trait for its survival in the deep wilderness, a critical trait that is dangerously diluted in the hybrid offspring. The wildcat is, fundamentally, a creature operating at the maximum physical and psychological efficiency demanded by its unforgiving environment, with every morphological detail serving a specific predatory function. The life of Felis sylvestris is dictated by the behavioral ecology and hunting strategy. The solitary algorithm, a code of conduct based on dispersion, independence, and an uncompromising dedication to the hunt. The wildcat is an archetype of the solitary predator, a highly efficient biological machine that operates alone outside of the brief, intense period of reproductive engagement, a structure that is energetically optimal for its size and preferred prey density. This isolation minimizes intraspecific competition for resources within a given territory and maximizes the efficiency of its stealth-based hunting method. Its existence is defined by rigorous territoriality, a complex, three-dimensional spatial map that is meticulously maintained and communicated through a sophisticated range of signals. Scent marking is paramount, involving high-frequency deposition of volatile organic compounds, vox through sprays of concentrated urine, marking vertical substrates at nose height. Deposition of feces in highly visible locations known as scrapes or latrines, and the use of specialized sebaceous glands located on the cheeks, flanks, and tail to rub against defining features such as prominent trees, rock faces, and stumps. The chemical profiles of these vox are highly complex, containing mixtures of species-specific pheromones that communicate not only the occupant's identity, sex, and precise reproductive status, but also subtle cues about its individual health, diet, and mitochondrial fitness, signaling strength or vulnerability to competitors without the energetic cost of a direct confrontation. The size of this home range is highly variable, fluctuating dramatically depending on the prey density, the availability of suitable cover, and the distribution of reliable water sources. Home ranges potentially consist of a compact 1 square kilometer in densely populated, resource-rich habitats to over 20 square kilometers in barren, fragmented landscapes. Here, male territories often overlap those of several females, in a strategy that maximizes reproductive access while minimizing unnecessary conflict. The wildcat must continuously patrol and renew these marks, a significant energetic commitment to spatial awareness. The wildcat is an opportunistic specialist in its diet, focusing primarily on small to medium-sized mammals, with a marked preference for rodents such as voles, mice, and rats, which form the bulk of its energy intake, as well as the more challenging lagomorphs, including rabbits and hares. This preference is driven by the fact that these prey animals provide the perfect balance of energy density and ease of capture for the wildcat's size and agility. While birds, reptiles, and insects are consumed, they generally constitute a smaller supplementary fraction of the total caloric intake, highlighting the wildcat's reliance on a stable, if fluctuating, mammalian prey base. The hunting technique is a masterpiece of patient energy expenditure combined with explosive force, a sequence perfected by natural selection. The cat is fundamentally a stalk and pounce predator, employing a combination of active searching and the sit-and-wait ambush from deep, concealed cover. When actively hunting, it moves with its body held infinitesimally low to the ground, utilizing every fold, shadow, and piece of vegetation as temporary cover, capable of freezing its movement instantly at the slightest auditory or visual disturbance. The final attack is a breathtakingly fast, explosive sequence. The animal coils its immensely powerful hind legs beneath its body, launches itself using the biomechanics of its highly flexible, spring-loaded spine, and finishes the prey with a precise bite to the nape of the neck. This attack is designed to deliver a lethal blow by severing the cervical spinal cord between the vertebrae, a technique that minimizes the risk of injury and ensures an immediate kill. This killing bite accuracy is a highly inherited trait, rarely perfected by hybrids. For larger, more dangerous prey, the wildcat may employ a suffocation technique to the throat or mouth, holding the bite until the animal is still, avoiding unnecessary risk. This reliance on stealth, precision, and the biomechanical advantage of surprise dictates its activity patterns. The wildcat is predominantly crepuscular and nocturnal, maximizing its advantage over diurnal prey and minimizing encounters with larger, competing predators such as foxes and badgers. Its entire behavioral repertoire is an algorithm designed to maintain a low energetic profile while maximizing the probability of a high-return predatory strike, a silent, continuous calculation in the wild theater of competition. The continuance of the species is mandated by the reproduction and parental investment, the seasonal imperative, a demanding period of communal interaction that briefly interrupts the wildcat's otherwise solitary existence, a critical phase where the species' wild traits are indelibly encoded in the next generation. Unlike the year-round breeding cycles often observed in domestic cats, the wildcat adheres to a more rigidly seasonal breeding pattern. typically synchronized with the improving weather conditions and the resultant increase in prey availability of the late winter and early spring. A crucial factor maximizing the chances of survival for the altricial young. This period is initiated by a dramatic shift in vocalizations. The male wildcats begin to broadcast their presence and status through loud, harsh screaming and yowling. Nocturnal calls that carry great distances through the quiet forest, acting as both an advertisement to receptive females and a clear non-physical challenge to rival males. Mating involves multiple brief copulations over several intense days with a single partner, though a female may sometimes accept multiple mates if territories overlap significantly. Following a gestation period that lasts approximately 63 to 66 days, the female prepares a secluded den, often choosing the most impenetrable, secure, and well-camouflaged location possible, utilizing rocky crevices, abandoned burrows dug by other species, or dense, thorny scrub patches to ensure absolute concealment from predators and environmental extremes. The litter size generally ranges from 2 to 4 kittens, which are born altricial, meaning they are completely helpless and dependent on maternal care, with closed eyes, non-functional hearing, and limited mobility, relying entirely on the mother's body heat and protection. Their development is a sequence of rapid, predetermined milestones essential for their swift progression toward independence. Their eyes and ears open around 10 to 12 days, providing their first visual and acoustic connection to the external world, triggering a crucial period of neurological development where the fear response is intrinsically programmed. Mobility increases dramatically in the subsequent weeks, and the introduction to solid food, or weaning, begins around 4 to 5 weeks of age, though they continue to nurse for several weeks thereafter as a dietary supplement. The entire burden of maternal care falls solely upon the female. She becomes a relentless high-energy provider, making multiple nightly hunting forays to sustain her own energetic needs and meet the burgeoning caloric demands of her rapidly growing litter, a period of immense physical stress, often requiring her to hunt in high-risk areas. This period demands the utmost fierce protection of the den site. The female will defend her kittens with extreme aggression against any perceived threat, displaying a level of ferocity and focus rarely observed in non-reproductive phases. As the kitten's development approached the critical socialization period, a window of time where they learn species-specific behaviors and fear responses, the mother initiates a complex phase of their education in hunting and survival. Using a 3-stage curriculum, she first brings back dead prey for them to consume and manipulate. She then progresses to injured or stunned prey to practice the precise killing bite. And finally, she presents live prey for them to chase and capture, teaching them the complex integration of stalking, pouncing, and dispatching required for survival. This rigorous training ensures the neurological development of the correct, genetically programmed fear responses and hunting sequences, a process that is often incomplete in hybrid kittens, which lack the mother's full genetic instruction set. Finally, between 5 and 10 months of age, depending on the subspecies and resource availability, the subadult cats undergo dispersal, leaving the safety of the maternal territory to establish their own range, commencing the cycle of solitary independence anew. The timing of this dispersal is highly sensitive to prey density, being earlier in high competition environments. Despite the perfection of its physiology and the rigor of its behavioral code, the wildcat now stands exposed to the complex, overwhelming pressures of the Anthropocene, requiring a dedicated analysis of its conservation status and anthropogenic threats. The edge of existence? The primary existential threat is not overt predation or ancient plagues, but the subtle, relentless degradation of its habitat, coupled with a genetic catastrophe of human making. Habitat fragmentation and loss, driven by the relentless expansion of intensive agriculture and continuous urbanization, has sliced the wildcat's range into isolated, often unsustainable pockets, creating effective island populations where genetic drift and inbreeding become concerns. The direct consequence of this fragmentation is dramatically increased road mortality, as individuals attempting to patrol their extensive territories or disperse to new, fragmented ranges are struck by vehicles, often making road trauma a leading, quantifiable cause of localized population decline in areas crisscrossed by road networks. This mortality disproportionately affects young, dispersing males, reducing the genetic interchange between populations. A secondary insidious threat comes from the introduction of pesticides and environmental toxins into the food chain. As the wildcat preys heavily on rodents which often consume poisoned grain, contaminated insects, or agricultural pests, fat-soluble organochlorine toxins undergo bioaccumulation in the feline's tissues. This persistent accumulation leads to chronic illness, reproductive failure, and a severe weakening of the immune system, acting as a slow, unquantifiable poison that dampens the population's resilience against natural pressures. Furthermore, contact with domestic cats introduces significant disease risk, with the transfer of pathogens like feline leukemia virus and feline immunodeficiency, posing a fatal threat to wild populations that lack the herd immunity found in high-density domestic environments. The historical hunting and trapping of the animal for its fur or as a perceived threat to small livestock has largely been outlawed in the European range. Illegal trapping and incidental shooting still occur, a persistent remnant of historic animosity toward predators, particularly where wildcat identity is confused with feral cat identity. Yet, all these external threats pale in comparison to the existential threat posed by the hybridization crisis, a phenomenon particularly acute for the European wildcat, Felis sylvestris sylvestris, and the African wildcat, Felis sylvestris libica, in areas adjacent to human settlements. The issue is straightforward and catastrophic. The wildcat shares its territory with an estimated 600 million free-ranging domestic cats. Felis catus, a staggering population density that provides an inescapable, genetically disruptive pool of non-wild genetics. When a pure wildcat mates with a domestic cat, the resulting hybrid offspring are fertile. These first-generation hybrids often possess an intermediate set of traits, appearing visually similar to a pure wildcat, but critically lacking the necessary, deeply ingrained behavioral and physiological adaptations for long-term survival in the deep wilderness. Most significantly, they exhibit a drastically reduced neophobia, or fear of humans, and an increased tolerance for human-modified landscapes and scavenging behavior, leading them to occupy marginal, fragmented habitats, where they further interbreed with both pure wildcats and other hybrids. This phenomenon leads to a continuous, irreversible process of genetic dilution, or genetic swamping. The unique, millennia-old genome of Felis sylvestris, which encodes the robust physique, the extreme shyness, the specialized hunting rigor, the superior anti-predator vigilance, and the dense specific coat patterns necessary for its survival, is slowly being washed away. The hybrid population often suffers from fitness depression, exhibiting reduced fertility, higher susceptibility to disease, and lower successful hunting rates compared to pure wildcats, creating a demographic sink that pulls the pure wild population down with it. The population is not disappearing through immediate death, but through genetic absorption, transitioning from a genetically distinct wild species to a composite, domesticated dominant hybrid swarm. This makes conservation efforts exponentially more complex, as the traditional focus on habitat protection must now include aggressive and controversial domestic cat sterilization and management programs in adjacent areas aiming to reduce the pool of hybridizing genetics that threatens to dissolve the very essence of the wildcat species. Genetic mapping projects utilizing microsatellites and mitochondrial DNA analysis are now the last line of defense, desperately seeking to identify and isolate the last remaining pockets of pure, unadulterated Felis sylvestris before the shadow of the house cat fully eclipses the ancestral flame. The wildcat story is thus a profound and tragic scientific parable. A creature that survived the glacial ages and the direct antagonism of man is now facing its end not by the predator's claw or the hunter's trap, but by the quiet, relentless encroachment of its own softer, domesticated shadow, demanding a radical re-evaluation of conservation strategy that encompasses both ecology and evolutionary genetics to secure its future. The air at 18,000 feet is not merely cold, but possesses a thin, crystalline quality. Here, in the jagged convergence of the Hindu Kush, the Karakoram, and the Himalayas, the very concept of life is pushed to its chemical and structural limits. To survive in this vertical wilderness, an organism must do more than inhabit the landscape. It must become a functional extension of the stone and the ice. Among the shifting scree slopes and the permanent glaciers of Central Asia, there exists a predator that has achieved a state of evolutionary perfection so specific that it remains one of the most elusive subjects in the history of natural science. This is the snow leopard, an animal that for centuries was known to the West only through fragmented pelts and the whispered reports of mountain nomads who spoke of a ghost that could vanish into solid rock. To understand the snow leopard, one must first dismantle the common misconceptions suggested by its name. For while it bears the rosettes of a leopard, its biological heritage tells a story of a far more ancient and formidable lineage. The taxonomic journey of the snow leopard, scientifically classified as Panthera uncea, is a masterclass in the complexities of feline genetics. For decades, the animal occupied its own lonely genus, Uncea, because it appeared to be a morphological bridge between the great roaring cats and the smaller purring cats. It was a creature of contradictions that defied easy categorization by early naturalists who relied on skeletal structures and coat patterns alone. However, the advent of mitochondrial DNA sequencing in the late 20th and early 21st centuries revealed a startling reality that reshaped our understanding of the Pantheran family tree. The snow leopard is not a close relative of the African or Indian leopard, as its common name implies, but is instead the sister species to the tiger. The common ancestor of the snow leopard and the tiger likely diverged from the other big cats approximately 3.9 million years ago, carving out a specialized niche in the rising highlands of the Tibetan plateau, while their striped cousins moved toward the humid river valleys and dense jungles of the east. This genetic proximity to the tiger explains the snow leopard's immense power and its stocky, muscular build. Yet the two species have spent millions of years perfecting diametrically opposed survival strategies. One of the most profound markers of the snow leopard's unique evolutionary path lies in the anatomy of its throat. Unlike the lion, tiger, leopard, and jaguar, the snow leopard lacks the fully ossified hyoid bone and the thick fibroelastic ligament that allows the other members of the Panthera genus to produce a true, ground-shaking roar. In the thin air of the high mountains, where sound travels differently and energy conservation is a matter of life and death, the snow leopard has retained a more primitive larynx. Instead of roaring, it produces a range of vocalizations including mews, growls, and a specific non-aggressive sound known as a prustin or chuff, which is created by blowing air through the mouth closed. Most remarkably, the snow leopard is the only big cat capable of a sustained domestic-style purr on both the inhale and the exhale. This lack of a roar is not a deficiency, but a specialized adaptation to a solitary life where stealth and silence are the primary tools of the hunt. A roar in the echoing canyons of the Altai Mountains would serve only to alert prey and competitors to the predator's location, whereas the subtle chuffing and purring maintain the social bonds between a mother and her cubs without breaking the silence of the peaks. Moving from the internal mechanics of sound to the external architecture of the body, we find a creature whose every square inch is designed to combat the lethal effects of extreme cold and low atmospheric pressure. The coat of a snow leopard is a marvel of biological engineering, possessing a density that is nearly unparalleled in the animal kingdom. On the belly, the fur can reach a length of nearly 5 inches, providing a thick, insulating buffer against the frozen ground when the animal is crouched in wait for prey. Science has determined that a snow leopard possesses approximately 26,000 hairs per square inch, a concentration that creates a microclimate of trapped warm air against the skin. Each hair follicle is part of a complex system where a long, stiff guard hair protects a dense, woolly undercoat. This dual-layered system is not just a barrier against the cold, but is also highly water-resistant, ensuring that melting snow does not penetrate to the skin and cause a rapid drop in core body temperature. The coloration of this fur, which is a smoky gray-white dappled with dark gray rosettes and spots, is so perfectly calibrated to the mineral composition of the granite and limestone cliffs it inhabits that the animal can remain visible to the naked eye only until it stops moving, at which point it seemingly dissolves into the mountain face. The physical proportions of the snow leopard further distinguish it from all other felines. It is a creature of low center of gravity and immense lateral strength. Its limbs are relatively short, but incredibly powerful, tipped with paws that act as natural high-performance snowshoes. These paws are disproportionately large, often reaching the size of a human head, and are covered in a dense carpet of fur, even on the underside between the toes. This serves 3 vital functions. It increases the surface area to prevent the leopard from sinking into deep snowdrifts. It provides a silent, padded footfall on jagged rock, and it protects the sensitive pads from frostbite. This lateral expansion of the foot allows the snow leopard to move with a deceptive, gliding grace across terrain that would be impassable for any other large predator. Yet, perhaps the most iconic feature of the snow leopard's physiology is its extraordinary tail. Often measuring the same length as the animal's entire body, roughly 3 feet of thick, muscular appendage, the tail is the snow leopard's multi-tool. At its base, the tail serves as a significant fat storage organ, allowing the leopard to maintain its energy levels during the lean winter months when prey is scarce. Structurally, it is a masterpiece of physics, acting as a dynamic counterbalance. When a snow leopard makes a leap across a mountain chasm, which is a feat it can accomplish over distances of 50 feet or more, the tail whips through the air in a corrective arc, allowing the cat to adjust its trajectory and landing posture mid-flight. When the hunt takes the leopard down a 60-degree scree slope at high speed, the tail serves as a rudder, providing the stability necessary to navigate the vertical chaos. Once the hunt is over, and the sun dips below the horizon, plunging temperatures to 40 degrees below zero, the tail undergoes a final transformation. The leopard curls into a tight ball and wraps the massive fur-clad tail around its face and body, tucked over its nose to act as a thermal blanket and a pre-filter for the freezing air it inhales. This process of inhalation is supported by a nasal cavity that is significantly larger and deeper than that of other big cats. As the leopard draws in the sub-zero air of the high altitudes, the expanded nasal passages act as a heat exchange system, warming the air through contact with a dense network of capillaries before it reaches the lungs. This prevents the cold from shocking the internal organs and helps maintain a constant core temperature in an environment where heat is the most precious commodity. Every aspect of the snow leopard, from the microscopic structure of its underfur to the macromechanics of its rudder-like tail, is a testament to an evolutionary journey that has rejected the generalist path in favor of a narrow, vertical perfection. It is a predator forged by the pressure of the mountains, a living embodiment of the unseen mystery that continues to fascinate the world of biology. While the external coat and skeletal structure of the snow leopard are visible triumphs of evolution, the most profound adaptations to the high-altitude environment occur at the cellular level, within the very chemistry of the animal's blood and lungs. To survive at elevations exceeding 18,000 feet, where the atmospheric pressure is less than half of that at sea level, the snow leopard must operate in what mountaineers call the death zone. In this realm, the human body begins to consume itself as oxygen levels plummet. Yet the snow leopard maintains a metabolic efficiency that allows for explosive bursts of predatory energy. This is made possible by a highly specialized hematological profile. The hemoglobin of the snow leopard has a significantly higher affinity for oxygen molecules than that of its lowland relatives. Each red blood cell is a more efficient carrier, capable of snatching scarce oxygen from the thin mountain air and transporting it to the vital organs and massive muscle groups with a speed that defies the lethargy usually associated with high-altitude existence. This efficiency is further supported by an increased concentration of red blood cells, a natural polycythemia that ensures the blood remains oxygen-rich even during the most strenuous physical exertion. However, such a high cell count can often lead to a dangerous thickening of the blood. Yet the snow leopard has evolved a unique vascular flexibility that allows this viscous, life-giving fluid to circulate freely through its extremities without risking the clots or heart strain that would plague a human at similar altitudes. Furthermore, the animal's lung capacity is disproportionately large relative to its body size. The chest cavity is broad and deep, housing lungs that can expand to draw in massive volumes of air, which is then processed through an exceptionally dense network of alveoli. This provides the surface area necessary for rapid gas exchange, ensuring that even in the middle of a high-speed chase across a vertical cliff face, the snow leopard's muscles do not succumb to the rapid buildup of lactic acid that would paralyze a lesser predator. Beyond the chemical mastery of its blood, the snow leopard is a creature of intense, calculated solitude, governed by the rigid laws of territoriality in a landscape where resources are spread thin across thousands of square miles. The home range of a single snow leopard can encompass an area of up to 800 square miles, a vast and jagged kingdom that must be patrolled and defended with constant vigilance. Because these animals are rarely in direct physical contact, they have developed a sophisticated long-distance communication system that utilizes the very geology of the mountains. A snow leopard moves through its territory like a ghost, yet it leaves behind a trail of chemical signatures that tell a detailed story to any other leopard that crosses its path. The most common method of communication is the scrape. Using its powerful hind legs, the leopard will push back the loose soil and scree to create a shallow, elongated depression, often at the base of a prominent overhanging rock or along a natural ridgeline. These scrapes are frequently accompanied by a spray of urine or the deposition of scat, creating a multi-sensory signpost that can persist for months in the dry, cold mountain air. By sniffing these marks, a passing leopard can determine the sex, age, health, and reproductive status of the territory's owner. It is a slow-motion conversation conducted over weeks and months, allowing solitary individuals to avoid unnecessary and potentially lethal physical confrontations, while still maintaining the boundaries of their respective domains. In addition to scraping, snow leopards engage in rock rubbing, where they press their cheeks and necks against the rough surfaces of granite outcrops. This behavior deposits oils from specialized scent glands, marking the vertical boundaries of their world and leaving a persistent olfactory shadow that serves as a warning to intruders and an invitation to potential mates. This life of solitude is punctuated by the sheer, terrifying violence of the hunt. The primary prey species for the snow leopard are the blue sheep, or baral, and the Siberian ibex, both of which are themselves masters of the vertical world. To catch a baral, the snow leopard must engage in a form of hunting that ignores the traditional horizontal planes of the savanna or the forest. A snow leopard hunt is a vertical event. The leopard typically approaches from above, utilizing its smoky coat to blend into the overhead rocks, while it watches the herd for hours, waiting for a single individual to move into a vulnerable position. When the moment arrives, the leopard does not simply run, it falls. It launches itself into a series of controlled tumbles and massive leaps, descending hundreds of feet in a matter of seconds. The physics of this descent are staggering. Because the terrain is composed of loose shale and near-vertical drops, the snow leopard must be able to withstand impact forces that would shatter the bones of most mammals. Its skeletal structure is remarkably flexible, with a spine that can twist and compress like a high-tension spring. During the final strike, the leopard often grapples with its prey as both animals tumble down a scree slope together. It is not uncommon for a snow leopard and a 300-pound ibex to fall 50 feet or more during the struggle, bouncing off rock ledges before coming to a rest at the bottom of a canyon. The leopard's grip is so tenacious, and its body so resilient, that it frequently survives these falls with no internal injuries, having successfully suffocated its prey during the descent. This ability to weaponize gravity, to use the mountain itself as a tool to disable prey, is what truly defines the snow leopard as the apex predator of the high peaks. Following a successful kill, the leopard's metabolic efficiency once again takes center stage. A large kill like an adult ibex can sustain a snow leopard for up to 2 weeks, and during this time, the cat will stay close to the carcass, guarding it against scavengers like the Himalayan griffon vulture or the Tibetan wolf. Every scrap of protein is consumed, including the bone marrow, which the leopard accesses with its massive carnassial teeth. In an environment where every calorie spent is a gamble, this ability to gorge and then fast for extended periods is the final piece of the survival puzzle. The snow leopard does not hunt for sport. It hunts to fuel the complex biological machinery that keeps it alive in a world that is fundamentally hostile to the presence of life. While the biological and predatory excellence of the snow leopard is a matter of scientific record, its existence in the human mind is a matter of myth, oracles, and ancient spiritual geometry. To the people of the high Himalayas, such as the Tibetans, the Ladakhis, and the Waki of the Hindu Kush, the snow leopard is not merely a pantherid predator. It is a mountain deity, a protector of the sacred heights, and a vehicle for the souls of the departed. In the profound silence of the high-altitude monasteries, the leopard is often depicted in Thangka paintings as the Mount of Milarepa, the great Tibetan poet's saint. Legend tells that Milarepa once transformed himself into a snow leopard to survive a winter of isolation in the great cave of conquering demons. When his disciples came to find him, they saw only the leopard, its golden eyes reflecting the wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes, a testament to the belief that the cat and the monk share the same austere, meditative essence. This sacred lineage, however, does not end at the borders of the Tibetan plateau. In the modern era, the snow leopard has undergone a fascinating metamorphosis, leaping from the walls of ancient monasteries into the digital canvases of global pop culture. In the hands of modern mythmakers, the animators at Pixar, DreamWorks, and Disney, and the writers of Marvel and DC, the cat has been recast as an archetype of both the ultimate antagonist and the enigmatic sage. In the realm of DreamWorks animation, the snow leopard found its most formidable cinematic expression in the form of Tai Lung, the primary antagonist of Kung Fu Panda. Here, the biological traits of the Panthera uncia, such as the massive paws, the incredible leaping ability, and the thick rudder-like tail, are exaggerated to create a character of unparalleled physical power. Tai Lung represents the shadow self of the warrior archetype. He is the leopard stripped of its meditative milarepa, like restraint and fueled by pure, unadulterated ambition. The choice of a snow leopard for this role was not incidental. In the visual language of the film, the leopard's monochrome palette and icy origins contrast sharply with the vibrant, earthy tones of the Valley of Peace, marking him as an outsider, a creature of the high, cold places where the air is thin and mercy is scarce. His escape from Korgum prison, where he uses his incredible strength to scale vertical walls, is a stylized homage to the real-life leopard's ability to navigate the most treacherous terrain on Earth. Contrast this with the more whimsical and philosophical treatment of the snow leopard in the world of Pixar and Disney. In Zootopia, while the snow leopard is a more peripheral figure, the choice of the species signals a shift in the public consciousness. No longer is the cat merely a man-eater of old colonial lore. It is part of a sophisticated, urbanized tapestry, a symbol of cool intellectualism. Pixar's broader influence on animal characterization often leans into the uncanny valley of animal intelligence, mirroring the real-world belief that snow leopards possess a sentient, almost human-like depth in their gaze. This is echoed in Disney's nature documentaries, such as Born in China, where the snow leopard Dawa is framed through a lens of tragic heroism. Here, the myth being constructed is one of the Mother Protector, a narrative that resonates with the ancient Himalayan belief in the leopard as a guardian of the life cycle. In the expansive universes of Marvel and DC Comics, the snow leopard often appears as a totem of mystical power or a companion to high-altitude heroes. In Marvel's lore, the cold regions of the Himalayas are frequently prowled by white-furred cats that bridge the gap between the mundane and the magical. Heroes like Iron Fist or Doctor Strange often encounter these creatures as trials or guides. The white leopard in some comic iterations acts as a counterpart to the Black Panther, where the panther represents the lush, vibrant tech jungle of Wakanda. The snow leopard represents the stark, spiritual isolation of the peaks. They are two sides of the same feline coin. One a king of the earth, the other a ghost of the ether. The literary world has perhaps been the most successful in preserving the leopard's ghostly reputation while infusing it with modern fantasy elements. In Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials, the character Lord Asriel, who is a man of immense will and world-shattering ambition, possesses a daemon named Stelmaria, a magnificent snow leopard. Stelmaria is the perfect externalization of Asriel's soul, elegant, dangerous, and perfectly adapted to the high altitudes of intellectual and political struggle. She does not need to speak often. Her presence alone conveys a sense of cold, detached authority. Through Stelmaria, Pullman tapped into the ancient Ladakhi idea that the leopard is a vehicle for a high-status soul, a creature that exists partially in our world and partially in a realm of pure spirit. This transition from mountain deity to literary daimon to animated villain illustrates a unique cultural phenomenon. The snow leopard is one of the few animals that has never lost its dignity in pop culture. Unlike the lion, which can be caricatured as a bumbling king, or the tiger, which is often reduced to a circus performer, the snow leopard is almost always portrayed with a degree of reverence. Even as an antagonist like Tai Lung, it is respected for its mastery. This reverence extends into the world of video games and digital media, where the snow leopard is often the ultimate unlockable mount, or a rare legendary creature in RPGs like Far Cry 4 or World of Warcraft. In these digital spaces, the player is invited to engage with the leopard's ancient spiritual geometry through the lens of exploration. The hunt for the ghost becomes a digital pilgrimage, echoing the real-world expeditions of George Schaller and Peter Matthiessen. Ultimately, whether it is Disney framing the leopard as a symbol of maternal sacrifice, or a Marvel comic using it as a gateway to a hidden dimension, the core of the myth remains the same. The snow leopard represents the untouchable. It is the physical manifestation of the boundary between the known and the unknown. In an age where every corner of the globe is mapped by satellites and every animal is tracked by GPS, the snow leopard, which is, both in the wild and in our stories, retains a stubborn, beautiful invisibility. It remains the ghost of the peaks, a creature that we can see with our eyes, but can only truly understand through our imagination, our myths, and our art. As long as there are mountains to climb and stories to tell, the leopard will continue to walk through the thin air of our collective psyche, a golden-eyed reminder that some things on this earth are meant to remain sacred, silent, and wild. A spiritual connection is not merely a relic of the past. It is a living, breathing component of the landscape's ecology. In many remote villages, the presence of a snow leopard is seen as a barometer of the local god's favor. If the leopard vanishes, it is believed that the protector spirits have withdrawn their blessing, leaving the community vulnerable to drought, disease, and misfortune. This sacred ecology has historically provided a layer of protection for the cat that no modern law could replicate. The taboos against killing a mountain deity were absolute. However, as the modern world encroaches upon these high-altitude redoubts, the ancient walls of myth are beginning to crumble under the weight of economic necessity and the shifting climate, leading to a new and dangerous era of human-wildlife conflict. As the climate warms, the tree line is moving upward, shrinking the snow leopard's alpine habitat and forcing it into closer proximity with nomadic herders. When a leopard, driven by the scarcity of its natural prey like the baral and ibex, descends to take a domestic goat or a yak calf, it is no longer seen as a deity. It becomes a thief, a threat to the very survival of a family whose entire wealth is tied to their livestock. A single night of surplus killing, where a leopard's predatory instincts are triggered by the panicked movements of penned animals, can result in the loss of 20 or 30 sheep. For a subsistence herder, this is a financial catastrophe that often leads to retaliatory killing. The ghost of the mountains is being hunted not for its pelt, but for its hunger. The conservation frontier, therefore, is no longer just about biology. It is about socioeconomics and the innovative application of technology. Conservationists are now working to turn the snow leopard from a liability into an asset. Through leopard-proofing programs, villages are being equipped with solar-powered lights and reinforced nighttime corrals that utilize predator deterrent technology. Furthermore, community-based insurance schemes have been established where herders pay a small premium into a collective fund that compensates them for any livestock lost to predators. This shifts the burden of loss from the individual to the community and international donors, removing the primary motivation for retaliatory killing. In the jagged valleys of Spiti and Ladakh, the very people who once feared the leopard are now its primary guardians, acting as citizen scientists who track individual cats using camera traps and GPS data. On the technological edge, the study of snow leopards has undergone a digital revolution. Because the cats are so difficult to spot in the wild, researchers now rely on artificial intelligence and satellite telemetry. AI algorithms are trained to scan thousands of hours of camera trap footage, identifying individual leopards by the unique patterns of their rosettes, a biological fingerprint that remains constant throughout their lives. Meanwhile, GPS coloring programs are revealing migratory corridors that were previously unknown, showing that snow leopards frequently cross international borders between India, China, Mongolia, and Pakistan. This has led to the creation of transboundary conservation landscapes, where nations that are often at political odds must cooperate to protect a species that recognizes no human boundaries. The future of the snow leopard is a delicate balance between the ancient and the avant-garde. It requires the preservation of the sacred mountain myths that once protected them, combined with the hard-edged reality of satellite tracking and economic incentives. As we look to the horizon of the 21st century, the survival of the snow leopard remains the ultimate test of our ability to coexist with the wild. If we allow this shadow to disappear from the peaks, we lose more than just a species. We lose a piece of the Earth's mystery, a witness to the vertical extremes of our planet. The snow leopard reminds us that there are still places where the human foot does not easily tread, and where the silence of the snow is guarded by a ghost with golden eyes. To save the snow leopard is to save the wildness of the world itself, ensuring that the highest cat on earth continues to walk its lonely path through the clouds, forever out of reach, but never out of mind. To understand the predator that defines the wilderness of the Northern Hemisphere, one must look back millions of years into the Miocene epoch, when the first recognizable canids began to diverge from a common ancestor. The story of the gray wolf begins with a lineage of small, lithe hunters that patrolled the open plains of North America, eventually giving rise to the genus Canis. This evolutionary journey was not a straight line, but a complex branching of species that adapted to the shifting climates and changing prey densities of the Pleistocene. While the popular imagination often pits the gray wolf against the extinct dire wolf, genetic analysis has recently revealed that these two animals were far more distant cousins than previously believed. The dire wolf represented a specialized lineage that eventually vanished along with the megafauna of the Ice Age, whereas the ancestors of the modern gray wolf remained flexible, smaller, and more capable of surviving the lean periods between the great glaciations. This flexibility allowed the gray wolf to traverse the Bering Land Bridge, moving between North America and Eurasia in multiple waves of migration that ensured a robust and diverse genetic pool. The specific genetic split that led to the modern gray wolf is a subject of intense scientific study, particularly regarding the moment when the lineage of the wolf diverged from the ancestors of the domestic dog. It is now understood that dogs did not descend directly from the modern gray wolf we see today, but rather both shared a common, now extinct wolf, ancestor roughly 15,000 to 30,000 years ago. This divergence marks one of the most significant moments in biological history, as one branch leaned into a symbiotic relationship with humans, while the other remained the ultimate expression of wild independence. The gray wolf emerged from this period as a master of the middle ground, possessing a body and a brain optimized for long-distance endurance and high-stakes social cooperation. Their genetic resilience is evidenced by their ability to thrive in environments ranging from the high Arctic tundra to the arid deserts of the Middle East, a feat of adaptation that few other large carnivores can claim. When we examine the physiology of the gray wolf, we find a machine built for the specific strategy of cursorial hunting, which is the practice of running prey to the point of total physiological exhaustion. Unlike the big cats of Africa or the Americas, which rely on explosive speed and short-range ambushes, the wolf is an endurance athlete of the highest order. Their skeletal structure is narrow, with a deep chest and a lithe frame that minimizes wind resistance and maximizes lung capacity. A wolf can travel at a steady trot for hours on end, covering dozens of miles in a single night, without showing signs of fatigue. Their hearts are significantly larger than those of domestic dogs of a similar size, allowing for an incredibly efficient oxygen exchange that powers their muscles during the grueling chases that can last for several miles. This stamina is the primary tool in their arsenal, allowing them to test the resolve and the health of a herd until they identify the single individual that cannot keep up. The biomechanics of the wolf's movement are further enhanced by the specialized structure of their paws. Each foot is a masterpiece of natural engineering, featuring 4 toes on the hind feet and 5 on the forefeet, though only 4 make contact with the ground. The fleshy pads are surrounded by stiff, coarse fur that provides traction on slippery ice and protects the skin from the biting cold of the snow. Unlike cats, wolves have non-retractable claws that act like the cleats on an athlete's shoe, digging into the earth to provide stability during high-speed turns or when traversing rocky terrain. The 2 middle toes are slightly longer than the outer ones, creating an oval-shaped print that is distinct from the rounder prints of most domestic dogs. This arrangement allows the wolf to distribute its weight effectively, preventing it from sinking too deeply into soft snow and enabling a silent approach when necessary. As the winter months descend upon the northern latitudes, the wolf's physiology undergoes a dramatic transformation to cope with temperatures that can drop well below -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Their winter coat is a dual-layered system of insulation that is virtually impenetrable to the elements. The undercoat consists of short, dense, wool-like fur that traps a layer of warm air against the skin, while the outer layer is composed of long, coarse guard hairs that repel water and snow. This fur is so effective at retaining heat that snow falling on a sleeping wolf will not melt from the animal's body heat, as the insulation prevents any warmth from escaping the skin's surface. Even their tails serve a functional purpose in this thermal regulation. When a wolf curls up to sleep, it tucks its sensitive nose and face under its bushy tail, using its own breath to warm the air it inhales throughout the night. The predatory capabilities of the gray wolf are perhaps most visible in the specialized anatomy of the skull and jaw. A wolf possesses 42 teeth, each designed for a specific task in the process of bringing down large ungulates. The incisors at the front are used for grooming and nipping, while the long curved canines are designed to puncture the thick hides of elk, moose, or bison. However, the most impressive feature is the set of carnassial teeth toward the back of the mouth, which act like heavy-duty shears, capable of slicing through tough muscle and tendon. The masseter muscles that power these jaws are capable of exerting a crushing pressure of approximately 1,500 pounds per square inch. This is nearly double the bite force of a large German shepherd, and is sufficient to shatter the femurs of large prey to reach the nutrient-rich marrow inside. This ability to consume almost every part of a carcass ensures that the pack can derive the maximum possible energy from every successful hunt, which is vital in an environment where a week or more might pass between meals. Beyond the raw power of the jaw, the wolf's sensory world is dominated by a sense of smell that is almost incomprehensible to the human experience. Within the nasal cavity, a wolf possesses roughly 280 million scent receptors, compared to the mere 5 million found in humans. This allows them to detect prey from distances of nearly 2 miles under the right wind conditions. Their olfactory system is so sensitive that they can distinguish between different individuals within a herd and even sense the chemical signatures of fear or illness in a potential target. This sense of smell is not just a hunting tool. It is the primary medium through which they perceive the boundaries of their world. Scent marking through urination and defecation serves as a complex chemical ledger, informing other wolves of who has passed through the area, their reproductive status, and the strength of the resident pack. This chemical communication is the foundation of the territorial math that dictates the movements of every wolf across the landscape. The auditory world of the wolf is equally refined, with ears that can swivel independently to pinpoint the source of a sound. They are capable of hearing the high-pitched squeaks of rodents beneath a layer of snow or the distant howl of a rival pack from several miles away. Their hearing extends well into the ultrasonic range, allowing them to detect frequencies that are entirely silent to the human ear. This acoustic sensitivity is paired with a visual system that is optimized for the low-light conditions of dawn and dusk, the times when they are most active. While they do not see the full spectrum of colors that humans do, their eyes are packed with light-sensitive rods and a reflective layer known as the tapetum lucidum, which enhances their night vision and gives their eyes that characteristic golden glow when caught in a light source. Every aspect of the wolf's physical being, from the cellular level to the structure of the skeleton, is a testament to a lineage that has spent millions of years perfecting the art of the hunt. While the physical prowess of the gray wolf is formidable, it is their cognitive architecture and social sophistication that truly set them apart as the masters of the northern wilderness. For decades, the public and scientific understanding of wolf social dynamics was clouded by the concept of the alpha and beta hierarchy, a model based on observations of unrelated wolves forced together in captive environments. In these artificial settings, wolves engaged in aggressive displays to establish dominance, leading researchers to believe that wild packs were governed by a rigid, linear rank system won through combat. However, modern field research, particularly in undisturbed wild populations, has completely dismantled this myth. In nature, a wolf pack is not a collection of competitors, but a cohesive family unit, usually consisting of a long-term breeding pair and their offspring from several consecutive years. The leaders of the pack are not alphas who fought their way to the top, but simply the parents, and the rest of the pack consists of their children, who naturally follow the guidance of their elders. This family model shifts our understanding of wolf behavior from one of constant internal conflict to one of deep, nurturing cooperation. The breeding pair, often referred to as the patriarch and matriarch, share a bond that can last for a lifetime, providing a stable core for the group's survival. Within this structure, the concept of alloparenting emerges as a vital survival strategy. When a new litter of pups is born in the spring, the responsibility for their care does not fall solely on the mother. Instead, the entire pack, including older siblings, and sometimes even uncles or aunts, participates in the upbringing of the young. While the mother stays in the den to nurse the blind and helpless pups, other pack members hunt and return to the den site to provide food. This is often done through the process of regurgitation, where an adult wolf consumes meat at a kill site and carries it back in its stomach, later offering it to the pups or the nursing mother. This ensures that the most vulnerable members of the family are fed even when they cannot travel to the carcass themselves. The social brain of the wolf is also evidenced by the complex play behavior observed among juveniles and adults alike. Play serves as a critical educational tool, allowing young wolves to practice the stalking, pouncing, and biting maneuvers they will eventually need for the hunt. It also reinforces social bonds and teaches the young how to inhibit their bite force, ensuring that mock battles do not result in actual injury. This high degree of emotional intelligence allows the pack to operate as a single, coordinated organism during the pursuit of large prey. When a pack of 8 or 10 wolves encounters a 1,000-pound moose, the success of the hunt depends on the ability of each individual to read the subtle body language and vocal cues of their kin. One wolf may distract the prey from the front, while others maneuver to the flanks or rear, a level of strategic planning that requires a sophisticated understanding of both the environment and the intentions of their fellow hunters. Communication is the glue that holds these family units together, and it manifests in a rich tapestry of vocalizations, many of which carry specific meanings and emotional weights. The most iconic of these is the howl, a haunting sound that can travel for miles across the landscape. The physics of the howl are specifically adapted for long-range transmission. It is a continuous, low-frequency tone that resists the scattering effects of wind and forest cover. Wolves howl to gather the pack before a hunt, to locate one another across vast territories, and to warn rival packs of their presence. Interestingly, each wolf has a unique vocal signature, much like a human fingerprint, allowing other pack members to identify exactly who is calling from the distance. When a pack howls in unison, they often harmonize at different pitches, a technique that creates a chorus effect, making the pack sound significantly larger and more intimidating to any potential intruders listening from the shadows. Beyond the howl, the wolf's vocabulary includes a diverse range of shorter-range sounds such as whines, barks, and growls. Whining is often associated with submission or a request for food, frequently used by pups when greeting adults. Barks are rare in the wild and are typically used as an alarm signal to alert the pack to a sudden threat. Growls and snarls, while aggressive, are often used as a form of social correction rather than a prelude to a fight, allowing the breeding pair to maintain order during high-tension moments like the sharing of a kill. This vocal repertoire is supplemented by a sophisticated system of body language, where the position of the ears, the tension in the muzzle, and the carriage of the tail communicate a wolf's internal state with remarkable clarity. A high-held tail and forward-facing ears signal confidence and leadership, while a tucked tail and flattened ears indicate a desire to avoid conflict and maintain social harmony. Equally important to the vocal and visual signals is the world of chemical communication, which acts as a permanent, invisible border system. Scent marking is the primary way a pack defines its territory, which can span anywhere from 50 to over 1,000 square miles, depending on the abundance of prey. Wolves possess specialized scent glands near the base of the tail and between their toes, allowing them to leave their chemical signature on trees, rocks, and the very ground they walk on. A wolf sniffing a scent post can determine the sex, health, and even the recent diet of the individual that left the mark. This chemical fence reduces the need for physical confrontation between rival packs, as a lone wolf or a smaller group can detect the overwhelming scent of a dominant resident pack and choose to steer clear. This territorial math is a constant calculation for the wolf, a balance between the energy required to defend an area and the caloric rewards that area provides. As we move from the internal dynamics of the pack to their external impact on the world, we encounter one of the most profound concepts in modern biology, the trophic cascade. The gray wolf is a keystone species, meaning its presence or absence has a disproportionate effect on the entire ecosystem. The most famous case study of this phenomenon occurred in Yellowstone National Park following the reintroduction of wolves in the mid-1990s. For 7 decades, the absence of wolves had allowed the elk population to grow unchecked, leading to the overgrazing of young willow, aspen, and cottonwood trees along the riverbanks. This lack of vegetation caused significant soil erosion and stripped the habitat of the birds and beavers that relied on those trees. When wolves returned, they did not simply reduce the number of elk. They changed the elk's behavior. The elk began to avoid the open valleys and riverbanks, where they were most vulnerable to predation, a phenomenon known as the ecology of fear. This behavioral shift allowed the riparian vegetation to recover with startling speed. As the trees returned, so did the beavers, who used the wood to build dams that created new ponds and wetlands. These wetlands, in turn, provided habitat for fish, amphibians, and a variety of migratory birds. Even the physical shape of the rivers began to change, as the stabilized banks and increased vegetation reduced erosion and created more defined channels. This top-down effect demonstrates that the wolf is not merely a consumer of life, but a sculptor of the landscape. Their presence ripples through the food web, benefiting scavengers like ravens, magpies, and grizzly bears who feast on the remains of wolf kills, and even enriching the soil with the nutrients from discarded carcasses. The wolf is the architect of a more resilient and biodiverse world, proving that the health of the predator is inextricably linked to the health of the entire wild system. The story of the gray wolf is not merely a biological or ecological one. It is a narrative deeply woven into the fabric of human history, psychology, and myth. No other animal has occupied such a polarized position in the human psyche. To some cultures, the wolf was the ultimate teacher and a brother in arms. To others, it was the personification of evil, a shadow lurking at the edge of the campfire. This dichotomy began tens of thousands of years ago, when humans and wolves first encountered one another as rival hunters on the Pleistocene steppe. We were remarkably similar. Both species were social, highly intelligent, and reliant on group cooperation to take down prey much larger than ourselves. It was this very similarity that likely led to the first and most significant partnership in human history, the domestication of the wolf into the dog. Yet, while some wolves entered our circles, those that remained wild became the canvas upon which we projected our deepest fears and aspirations. In many indigenous cultures across North America and Siberia, the wolf was held in the highest esteem. The Anishinaabe people of the Great Lakes region, for instance, see the wolf, the Miingan, as a brother to humankind. In their creation stories, the wolf and the human traveled together to name all the things of the world, and their fates were declared to be forever intertwined. What happens to one will eventually happen to the other. For the Quileute and the Tlingit, the wolf was a symbol of strength, loyalty, and successful hunting. In these worldviews, there was no big bad wolf. There was only a respect for a fellow sovereign being that shared the land. The wolf's ability to provide for its family and its tactical brilliance in the hunt were qualities to be emulated by human warriors and providers. However, as human societies shifted from hunter-gatherer models to sedentary agriculture and pastoralism, the relationship soured. The wolf, once a respected rival, became a pest and a thief. In the eyes of a shepherd, the wolf was a cold-blooded killer that threatened the family's livelihood. This transition marked the birth of the big bad wolf archetype that would dominate European folklore for a millennium. From the terrifying Fenrir of Norse mythology, destined to swallow the sun, to the predatory villain of Little Red Riding Hood and the Three Little Pigs, the wolf was transformed into a monster. It was no longer a biological entity but a moral one, a symbol of the untamed, chaotic wilderness that civilization sought to conquer. This demonization reached its peak during the Middle Ages, where the fear of the wolf was often conflated with religious paranoia leading to the bizarre and tragic werewolf trials that mirrored the witch hunts of the same era. When European settlers arrived in the New World, they brought this deep-seated lupophobia with them. In the United States, this led to one of the most systematic and government-sanctioned campaigns of eradication in history. The wolf was seen as an impediment to progress, a barrier to the expansion of the livestock industry and the taming of the West. Through the 19th and early 20th centuries, wolves were trapped, poisoned with strychnine, shot from planes, and even burned in their dens. Bounties were paid for their pelts, and by the 1930s, the gray wolf had been virtually eliminated from the lower 48 states, except for a tiny, resilient population in the deep woods of northern Minnesota and Isle Royale. We had succeeded in silencing the howl, but in doing so, we had unwittingly unraveled the ecological health of our wild spaces, leading to the degraded landscapes that would later necessitate the reintroduction efforts of the late 20th century. The modern era has seen a slow, often contentious rebranding of the wolf. The passage of the Endangered Species Act in 1973 marked a turning point, shifting the legal status of the wolf from a vermin to a protected treasure. This shift was fueled by a burgeoning public interest in ecology and a growing realization that the wilderness was incomplete without its apex predator. Yet, the return of the wolf remains one of the most divisive issues in rural politics. For conservationists, the wolf is a symbol of restoration and the rewilding of the planet. For many ranchers and hunters, the wolf remains a threat to livestock and a competitor for elk and deer populations. This conflict is not just about biology. It is a clash of values, a struggle between a traditional agrarian worldview and a modern environmental one. Today, the management of gray wolves is a high-stakes balancing act involving satellite GPS tracking, complex legal battles in federal courts, and innovative non-lethal deterrence. Range riders, colored flags hung on fences known as fladry, and livestock guardian dogs are being used to reduce conflict between wolves and cattle, proving that coexistence is possible, though it requires constant effort and compromise. The legal status of the wolf often fluctuates with changing political administrations, as they are delisted and relisted from the Endangered Species Act, sparking nationwide debates about state versus federal control of wildlife. As we look to the future, the survival of the gray wolf depends less on its ability to hunt and more on our ability to tolerate its presence. We are currently living through a period of human-wildlife coexistence that is testing the limits of our empathy. The wolf asks us a difficult question. Can we share the world with a creature that we cannot fully control? Can we accept a predator that occasionally challenges our interests in exchange for the ecological vitality it provides? The gray wolf is a mirror in its golden eyes. We see our own history of violence and our capacity for restoration. To protect the wolf is to protect the idea of the wild itself, the belief that there should be places on this earth where the human will is not the only law. In the quiet of a winter night in the high country, when the moon hangs heavy over the snow-dusted pines, the howl returns. It is a sound that connects the present to the deep, primordial past. It is the voice of the wilderness, reminding us that the world is older, more complex, and more beautiful than we often give it credit for. The sovereign of the wild has returned to its throne, not as a tyrant, but as a vital breathing part of the earth's ancient machinery. As long as the gray wolf is allowed to roam, the pulse of the wild will continue to beat, a testament to the resilience of nature and the enduring power of one of the world's most misunderstood and magnificent survivors. Thank you and good night.